government seems to be throwing the ball back at the governor as they have in the past, suggesting that there are actions or policies that they want to adopt, but they can't because they need to get final approval from Government House.
Let me just say one thing with regards to that. That has been the one problem that we've had, that we've experienced. That's been the reoccurring theme. The government is responsible for providing the funding so that the police and the police commissioner can get on with the job. But for the last 3 years, my colleague can certainly speak to that as well, the funding hasn't been there. The resources have been cut. The police had to march on Parliament with regards to some of their concerns. That is the climate that the government has caused the workers, the police officers, are good men and women that serve this country, that's there to provide enforcement of the law, have had to endure. During the same time, we've had the politics of distraction with regards to the Premier and his cabinet in regards to, saying that they need to have operational control, withdrawing from meetings which the governor was trying to foster between all areas of emergency measures. That's irresponsible governance. That's what's got us into the problem that we have today. So we're here to say we've been a consistent voice along the way, and it's time for government to get out of the way because it's been part of the big problem that this country is experiencing.
Gary, let me just comment a little bit on that before. Perhaps 8, 9 months ago, we had a press conference in this room, and we said one of the suggestions would be to deal with the violence when it was in its incubation stage at that time, would be to have a peace summit. The idea was poo-pooed by the government. They didn't even discuss it within the community. And I would say today that if we'd done something like that, we wouldn't be in such a dire situation as we are in today. And the peace summit can still work. But will they reach out? No, they won't reach out to people. Because if they see some of those people talking to us, they don't want any part of it. It's like us against them. The ship sinks with us against them. And we're not going down with the ship. My colleagues and I, we're going to fight. We'll turn this around. And we will make government understand when we speak at times, we are right. We're not always wrong.
One of the things that the government has suggested this time around is sending prisoners abroad. Now, they've said that they've brought that up before and had difficulties. We found no public record of them ever kind of mentioning this to the U.S. consulate or to Government House. Do you know what they're talking about?
No, our inquiries have not led to any revelation with respect to this. This is a mechanism. I don't want to sit here and guess how it would work, because you could have a bilateral exchange where you send prisoners somewhere and they send prisoners back, or you could have a system where you send prisoners somewhere and then you pay for them. And they've given no details of what it is they're talking about, who they spoke with about it, and that's why we say it's a knee-jerk reaction. They're throwing things out there with no form of detail, so that you can't even discuss them sensibly. We do need to address the prison system here, but if you're going to send prisoners abroad, you really have to decide, well, why are you doing that? They didn't even say in the press conference what the objective of that exercise would be. Is it because the prison's too full? Is it because we have gangs operating in prison? If we do, tell us that. Let us know what the precise problem is that you're trying to address. And they didn't come out and say that, so we're in the dark like the public.
Were his comments surprising, considering that in 2007, Senator Birch refused to allow any UK prison experts to come down and evaluate the prisons? I believe the exact quote was, "He's not coming anywhere near our prisons."
Well, and I think at that time they had a consultant here who was here for a couple of years while the new Commissioner of Prisons was appointed, Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb had no expertise in prisons whatsoever, so they brought somebody in to train him. At that time, we knew he had serious problems in the prison. It was suggested they come and have a consultant go through the prison. I don't think the government wanted consultants coming and looking at the prison at that time because we had a new inexperienced commissioner and the system wasn't up and running. Now, perhaps this is something that should be mooted again. We need someone to come in and look at the system because certainly the community feels that we have serious problems at Westgate in a number of different areas, whether it be with gang members operating from their cell phones, drugs, people dying in the prison, people with psychological problems who need help. Right across the board, it needs to be re-examined.
Let me piggyback on that a little bit, because in the research that we have done in connection with prisons certainly in other jurisdictions, they found that it's been very successful in dealing with gangs in sending prisoners to other locations. Because what happens typically if you arrest somebody in, say, Salem, New Jersey, I don't want to pick on Salem, New Jersey, and you put them in a prison in Salem, New Jersey, they find it easy to run their gang activities out of that prison in Salem, New Jersey. But when they've shipped them to another jurisdiction, immediately it has a drastic impact on their ability to carry on. And so that's where I think this government's suggestions come from, because it's been tried and tested in other areas. And as my colleague said, we definitely have challenges at Hotel Westgate, as I call it. But until government gets serious about correcting some of the issues we have at Westgate, it's just like putting Band-Aids on, on a really difficult, open, life-threatening wound that we have here. And this government, we talked about it in the budget debate in both places, about the serious lack of a focus on the strategy in Westgate, in our correction institutes, on not only rehabilitation, but the incarceration procedure involved with that. And we make no moves as a community to change it. And until we do that, we're going to have problems. Because the Westgate is out of control as far as we're concerned, as far as what they do. But think about the officers in Westgate. They are dealing with the same criminals you take off the street that are politically, they're hardened by the violence and the shootings, and then they're up there in Westgate without any security for themselves to make sure that they're being taken care of properly. In fact, when they escort these guys down to our court system, all they have is the handcuffs. They don't have a billy stick or anything. What's stopping some of these guys or their colleagues to get involved and make some trouble? So we talk about making sure our civil servants can operate in the best conditions possible, but it's window dressing with the prisons, and we have a change in culture. This government needs to understand that.
Mr. Myers, I just wonder what your reaction to the Attorney General's proposal of increasing the time limit or the detention time that firearm suspects could be held without charge.
Yeah, I think you need to look at that. Recently we had a case where someone was charged with possession of a firearm and they were acquitted by a jury, and the evidence appeared to be overwhelming. So all parts of the system need to work. With respect to keeping people remanded in custody on those charges, yes, we need to look at it across the board. Right now, they were saying that those bail conditions on people who are charged with murder, they want to spread, but you might want to spread it wider. So you need to look at it and say, well, exactly how wide do we need to go and how tough do we need to be? If you talk about simple possession of a gun, but let's say you commit a crime with a knife. Is that any less dangerous than a crime with a gun? You have to look at it. So it's really the circumstances of the crime. But in theory, yes, we would support that. We need tough measures for tough times.
Are you concerned that the PLP will return to their election gambits of saying you're trying to bring back the death penalty, you're wanting to lock up all young black boys as they did in the last election when you guys said it's time to get tough?
Well, I think some of their own members are raising those issues now.
Yeah. I think that the circumstances that are before us today, the people of Bermuda are living them. And unlike 2007, where that political rhetoric was able to gain some traction, what we're seeing today is we're seeing a country that's faced with some very serious, real problems. And for another time, we need to talk about the economic impact of all of this. So they can try that, but Bermuda is looking for real solutions during these very difficult times.
Ryan, you've been quiet.
Man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.